afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Lit Gals with April Long and Anna. I am Martie Hoofer. This is our monthly live stream brought to you by Keep Indiana Learning, where we are celebrating our second birthday this month. So give us a follow on Twitter, giving away lots of fun prizes. And ladies, I guess we should have done birthday themed books, but I didn't think about it. But we picked another great topic for this month that is fitting. It is March, and that means March Madness. And even if you don't love basketball, I know people that know nothing about basketball that fill out brackets, and I love those people because when they just pick them on like the colors of the uniforms or whatever, and that just makes me smile.
Yeah.
So welcome to March. So Anna, why don't you introduce yourself and then give it a go.
Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Cook. I am a professional learning specialist with Keep Indiana Learning and just a very big literacy advocate. And you might say that is my expertise. I love literacy. And I'm so happy to be here with these two wonderful ladies. April, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yes. So I'm April Long. I'm an English teacher. I've been teaching English for 16 years now. And for this past year, I have been with Indiana Online Academy. So we're all sort of in the same building, except for I don't work in the building. And so I do teach virtually full time. I've taught in a regular brick and mortar school as well as online. So I've had my foot in both camps.
April, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Online, reading online.
Let's talk about it.
Wow. I have done a lot of coaching during this pandemic via Zoom online. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was hard.
Yeah,
it was hard.
It's a struggle.
And you know, I'd really love to just pick your brain for a moment or two about, you know, teaching reading online.
Yeah. And I think this is, if we were to ask any English teacher that's taught online, and now especially most teachers have had experience in the last couple of years being on some form of virtual learning, it is a major struggle. And there are different aspects of virtual learning and who the students are that play into that you wouldn't see in the classroom as well. So we kind of have to look at all angles. And I am by no means an expert, but I definitely have been immersed in it. So I can kind of give my experience. I love to try to build a culture right away of we read out loud. We use our voices, and for a lot of students, that is uncomfortable, and I can see it on their faces when I say it. And I will tell you one experience where I learned that very quickly was in my 9th grade class, and some of my other colleagues had been using the wheel of names to call on.
Yeah.
And I should have trusted my gut. It didn't feel good. And as soon as I did that, I mean, I just saw like this poor kiddo's face. He's one of my favorites. It just sort of went ghostly white and then very red. And I could just see the whole stream of emotions. And then all of these questions. Do I have to read? How much do I have to read? I'm not feeling well. And I just, the panic. And I was like, I knew the panic was going to happen, and I should have trusted my gut, because we get a lot of different kinds of students online, especially that are maybe a little more prone to anxiety, who maybe came online for a reason because they are a little more uncomfortable around people, and this feels safer, and I want to keep that safe. So I have really been trying to balance this year. How can I encourage it? How can I still make sure I can hear my students read so that I can make sure my students are readers? And how can I not make them feel uncomfortable? So I offer anything from as little as you can read one sentence to, you can read a paragraph, you can read a page. And I do have a read aloud grade, but the alternative is if they don't read out loud is they can send me a recording. things. So if they are more comfortable reading into their phone or, on a screen recording, that way I still get to hear their voice, kind of gauge their reading level. And, I still have some that opt out, but it is, I think it has been a pretty good option this year to give both as an alternative. But yeah, it's something I'm going to be constantly looking for new strategies.
Anna, can I hop in and ask a question, a follow-up question? So April, how have you found, what I loved about teaching reading was the discussion. And when you bring literature to the table, we get to be human and discuss that. And that's why my favorite part of teaching reading. But I lost that, I felt like, when I had to teach online. It wasn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel as organic. And I tried lots of different ways. How do you facilitate classroom discussion in an online environment?
That's a good question.
Well, and I think all of my colleagues at Indiana Online Academy would tell you this too. We are always trying to get them to use their microphones. They want to use the chat pod or they don't want to talk at all. And so it, again, that's in the big struggle pile, but I really do like the chat pod for that. I know it's not perfect. It's not, but since we read everything we can out loud in class or we listen to an audio, I do think they're getting it in class because they're there and they're listening and I'm pausing for questions and I say, everybody in the chat pod or someone tell me on the mic. And I really do see them engaging with me, even if it is in the chat pod. And so again, I think that sometimes with virtual learning, we have to kind of change that expectation a little bit, that sometimes that is where they're more comfortable. And as long as I'm hearing from them and seeing their thoughts, I'm happy and I'm praising that. And I'm saying, can you tell me more? I loved what Anna said. Everybody look in the chat pod at Anna's remark. What do you guys think? And so I think, we don't ever want to have too teacher-centered of a room, but when they are reluctant to speak, I try to use the other tools. Or sometimes we'll do a Google Doc where they are all choosing a color and putting their thoughts. So sometimes I think, we're not hearing the voices as much, but we still try to see their thoughts. So I think it's not the same, Martie. I think you're exactly right. And I think that's part of the shift we have to make is virtual learning can be really good, but it definitely is different.
And might I add one more thing, April? Kudos to you for giving the students choice. Because choice builds relationships and relationships build trust and they'll just progress. Because you're giving them choices of the way to show. You know what I mean? Show me what you know. Show me what you can do with this book and the passage. So thank you. Thank you for the choice.
Well, I could certainly talk about this all day, but I know we have books to talk about too. So Martie, do you want to start us out with your sports books that you brought to the table?
Okay. I'm super excited about the sports topic because students love to ask me, what's your favorite book? And I hate that question. But this book that I'm about to share is in my top 5 of all books ever. So it gets high praise from me. And sorry, I was an overachiever this time and I brought 3. So I'll try to keep it short, but I do have 3 sports books. Okay. Number 1, my favorite sports book ever. It is called The Running Dream.
Okay.
There you go. The Running Dream. You can see it won a Snyder Family Book Award. Snyder Family Book Awards go to books that are exemplars for people who have disabilities. And that term disabilities is very broad. So The Running Dream is a great read, female main character, and her name is Jessica. And I'm not going to tell you anything that is not on the back cover because you're going to say, whoa, that's a big spoiler. No, what I'm about to tell you is not a big spoiler. Jessica is a runner, there's no surprise, who loses her leg in an accident. I think in the first chapter, it may be on the first page.
Wow.
So obviously, if you identify yourself as a runner and you are suddenly missing a limb, that seriously impacts you. And I love how Jessica works through that, and you see that struggle in her in this book. But what I love even more is how Jessica encourages others. And really, that's where the plot takes off, is not in Jessica's situation and Jessica processing for Jessica. It's Jessica processing for and with someone else. And how things that happen to us can impact us, but there may be a bigger reason that we can help others. So I love this book. Absolutely one of my favorites. So The Running Dream, highly, highly, highly recommend. All right. So then the next two actually go together. This one is called Black Brother by Jewel Parker Rhodes. Jewel Parker Rhodes is one of my favorite authors. She writes young adult and adult fiction, and she bridges that beautifully. Magic City, I'll talk about it some other time, is a great read for adults. But anyway, Black Brother by Jewel Parker Rhodes. Obviously, two brothers. They go to, I believe, a private school. In my head, it's somewhere in the Northeast. Don't hold me to that. But they are both Black, but as the cover accurately portrays, sorry about the shadow on it there, one brother is darker skinned than the other, and that causes issues at school. Dante is very frustrated in how he is viewed differently than his brother Trey. And so part of this story is them working through that. But the other part of this story is Dante decides to take up fencing. Fencing is not exactly your normal everyday sport. And Dante takes it up, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But Dante takes up fencing. And I found myself watching lots of YouTube videos about fencing because I realized I knew nothing about fencing other than it's a sword and you have a mask. And they use terms in here that I didn't know. So it's a quick little read. It's not very long. It's a pretty small book. And it's an absolutely gripping story that I absolutely loved. So there's that one. You would think I talk about basketball books. I'm a lifelong Hoosier, and it's March Madness, and I'm not going to talk about one basketball book. I mean, I got some I love, but I'm not talking about any. This one is a nonfiction read. It's called Proud by Ibtihaj Muhammad, and she is the first, and this is the young adult version. There is an adult version as well. I read the young adult version. Ibtihaj was the first female athlete to compete in the Olympics. I believe in Rio was where she competed with her hijab. And so it's her talking about breaking down all these stereotypes and all that she faced to be a Muslim woman who wore her hijab while she competed. It was a part of her that she took onto the fencing. I don't know what that little stripe is called, but that fencing area. I guess I need to learn a little more about fencing. I love this book. So it's a great nonfiction memoir. I know, April, you love memoirs, so you might enjoy this one. I thoroughly did. So those are my books for today. Proud by Ibtihaj Muhammad, Black Brother by Jewel Parker Rhodes, and The Running Dream. All my faves, all about sports. Can't believe I didn't talk about basketball, but I didn't. But there you go. So, Anna, I think you're maybe going to talk about basketball. So what you got for us?
But when we were talking about this, March Madness and basketball and everything, that isn't really one of my sports. March for my family means the start of race season. So we are NASCAR, IRL, we're all over that. So when I started thinking about a book, I thought, oh no, what am I gonna to find as far as basketball? And all of a sudden, it reminded me of Kobe Bryant and the term that he had kind of coined, if you will, the Mamba mentality. And if you remember, he had even had a little basketball team that his daughter was in, and it was called Mamba. And so I wanted to read that. And what I didn't realize, it's kind of like a coffee table book. It has a lot of unbelievable pictures, beautiful photos of Kobe throughout the years. But more importantly, it is his writing of, just the whole entire gamut of basketball. And I wanted to read this for just a moment, if you don't mind. He said, initially, I thought the phrase Mamba mentality was just a catchy hashtag that I'd start on Twitter, something witty and memorable, but it took off from there and came to symbolize much more. The mindset isn't about seeking a result. It's more about the process of getting to that result. It's about the journey and the approach. It's about a way of life. I don't think that it's important in all endeavors to have that, I do think that it's important in all endeavors to have that mentality. Whether I hear an elite college or MBA player or a Fortune 500 CEO reference the Mamba mentality, I find it very meaningful. When I see people talk about finding inspiration in it, it makes me want to work all that hard, all of that sweat, all of the 3 a.m. wake ups feel worth it. That's why I put together this book. All these pages incorporate lessons, not just lessons on basketball, but also on the Mamba mentality.
I love it.
It was unbelievable. And I just read it, in my Libby app here on my phone. But it was just fabulous. I was just enthralled. I read from start to finish. But yeah, the Mamba mentality by Kobe Bryant.
Good rec. Good rec.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that just leaves me. Mine will be quick, and I'm taking us onto the tennis court for my book. So, and this was a surprising read for me too, and I don't have a hard copy for you. Mine's on my Kindle, and this is Open by Andre Agassi, and it is his autobiography, but he did have assistance writing it from J.R. Moehringer. I think I'm saying that correctly. And J.R. Moehringer wrote The Tender Bar, if you're familiar with it. Actually, a movie of it just came out as well. And he's a beautiful writer. And so I loved that there was sort of an assist on that, because Andre Agassi has a beautiful story, and I'm glad that it was beautifully written. And I think I only sort of knew headlines about Andre Agassi. And when I was reading this, it was one of those things where I was on the plane. We took a trip to Spain a couple of years ago when I read it. And when you're loving a book so much, you can picture, every time you think of it, you know exactly where you were, where you were sitting. I mean, that's how this felt to me. And because it was such a surprising journey. And I think an important lesson about sports is to learn to love a sport for yourself. And whereas Andre Agassi, from the time he was a very little kid, was pressured and burdened to do it for someone else all the time, and got shipped away to Florida to be at this camp. He dropped out in 9th grade because he was so good and everybody wanted him to do this. And he did very well, but he struggled so much with other things like substance abuse, and because he lost his love of the game. And so I think that's a really great sports story, because he works his way through that and comes back again to be a champion on his own terms. I even have chills saying it. It was just so, the struggle of sport, the love of the game, why you do it, is all there and so beautifully written. And so, if you were to share it with students, it would need to be 11th, 12th grade. It definitely has a lot of heavier content, but just for a good adult read, it is it is surprising and wonderful. So back to you, Martie.
Well, and isn't that the beauty of sports? How even if you're not a sports fan, Anna, you admitted basketball isn't your thing, but you pick up Kobe Bryant's book and you see the beauty and the life lessons in it. And I am by no means a fencer. I don't even know what the strip is called, but I can learn so much from the experiences. And I think honestly, that is the beauty of sports. Is that we can learn so many life lessons. So what a great show today, ladies. I love it. And we're going to take next month. April is National Poetry Month. So we're going to dive into poetry next month. We have some great surprises planned, and I've been holding back talking about a book, and Anna and April have something planned. So we hope you'll catch us next month on the second Wednesday of the month at 3:30. And if you can't catch us then, you can always catch us on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel. So with that, we hope you will keep reading and have a great day. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, guys. Bye.